So entrepreneurship at MIT is something we talk about all the time. It almost seems like it's just so part of our blood. It flows through every hallway at MIT. You know, Linus mentioned the Infinite Corridor, and it's amazing the power and the energy within that building. As you walk down the Infinite Corridor underneath the dome, you walk by these classes, and there's class programs going on about entrepreneurship in all different fields, not just the business school. 10 years ago, the closest you got to entrepreneurship was when you walked down the hall near a business school. But now we're teaching entrepreneurship in the biology departments. We're teaching it in the economics groups. We're teaching it in physics. People have to think out of the box. How can they think about how the work they're doing today can impact the world? What is the global impact? One of the ways we do that is we put together great programs. So I'll tell you a little bit about the foundation of all of this, is that as we look at the history of MIT, there's probably about 20 to 30 startups that we spin out or start each year with MIT technology. It's a pretty good number, so it's probably 2 to 3 a month that are popping out of the university. 2/3 of them are still in business past 10 years, which is very significant, and about 1/3 of them have achieved liquidity events, meaning that they've either been acquired or they achieved a public offering. And many of them are acquired by larger organizations. We've had a fantastic group of case stories that you'll hear about in time about different organizations that were started in a laboratory environment, 2 or 3 scientists, they bring in an entrepreneur from the outside, and they wind up achieving a tremendous exit opportunity for the investors and for the other people involved. The ecosystem is really what makes all of this happen. So to sort of switch channels slightly, let me define ecosystem. When we think about an ecosystem, what we're thinking about in the entrepreneurial world is a system where access to the things and the people that you need, whether it be knowledge, capital, mentorship, those things are easily accessible. A high-quality ecosystem is one that is very vibrant. It's very rich. And this is a great example of some of the ways that we've begun to build an ecosystem in Cambridge, Massachusetts. We have organizations like the MIT Enterprise Forum, Venture Mentoring Services, the 100K competition, and others, partnering with people like Technology Review. All of these things add value to the ecosystem, and it allows each of our participants, those people that are part of our system, to actually have more value by being part of this network. There are 1 or 2 degrees of separation instead of 10 or 15 degrees of separation. And the Singaporean ecosystem is growing as well. If you take a look at the quality that's being built here in Singapore, Singapore has a tremendous knowledge base. It's a very powerful, vibrant community. And what you're seeing is tremendous commitment from organizations throughout Singapore, governmental organizations and others, exploit technologies, and A-Star is a great example of that. Spring, you go onto the Spring website, you take a look at what they're doing for startups. They have grant programs at different levels, they have mentorship programs and so forth, so there's a lot of value there. The SMART program is probably one of the most exciting, and Howard's going to talk a little bit about that. Certainly EDB and Bio1 are a big part of this. In fact, Kathleen is here visiting with some of the people from EDB and Bio1 as part of, as a representative of Technology Review, putting on a media program in 2011. So what you have here already is a network, and this is just a tiny piece of it. So this is a small example of some of the great things that are happening here in the network in Singapore. So I encourage you to expand your reach and expand your network by reaching into any of these organizations. And you can do that through the Enterprise Forum or independently. One of the other great things that I would say has an impact on entrepreneurship and has an impact on the ecosystem itself is competition. And one of the things we really pride ourselves on is being highly competitive. It's an entrepreneurial trait. It's something that we really have within the system at MIT. Years ago, the MIT entrepreneurship community was very small. They started a competition called the MIT 10K competition. And the idea was, hey, we're going to go into the business school and we're going to start tapping into people and kind of figure out they want to start businesses. And they write really good business plans. We'll have them judged by this committee. And then we're going to give away $10,000. And that grew and became tremendously successful and became the MIT 50K entrepreneurship competition. And the 50K entrepreneurship competition ultimately became the gold standard. It became the global gold standard. Teams from MIT were then traveling around the world to teach how to run these entrepreneurship competitions to universities. They were one of the very first and certainly one of the best. And now it's become the MIT 100K competition. And it continues to increase, not only the dollar amount, which is in the grand scheme of things, not important. The value of this is the experience that the entrepreneurs have. The entrepreneurs, or soon-to-be entrepreneurs, are not just coming out of the business school. They're coming out of every department within MIT. We're capturing people from each individual department who would have never thought about starting a business. We're pairing them up with different entrepreneurs and different expertise, submitting a business plan, giving them feedback from industry experts and other leaders. This is the type of thing that is incredibly valuable to build the ecosystem that we have. This is the type of thing that's smart and many of these other organizations can really help with. So I encourage you to think about, how do you begin to compete within this community? And I know that some of your universities here are already doing competitions like this. So find out how you can get involved. This is an example. I think I've already stated what is actually presented on this slide, which is we are really pulling from the different schools. Engineering is probably the loudest voice that we hear in the entrepreneurial community in MIT, as they immediately tap into the management school and pairing very often. But we're seeing more and more coming from the science and humanities and so forth. So I'm going to just close with a couple of thoughts and a slide or two, just to talk about entrepreneurship in general. And I think the key point that I really want to make is that whether you're working right now in a big company, you're working for a governmental organization, you're a student, your ability to think entrepreneurially is going to have an impact on your entire career. Whether you never leave that government position, that banking position, that big company or not, if you think like an entrepreneur, you have the urgency, you have the desire to succeed beyond the norm, it'll be changing your life in a way you cannot even imagine. If you ultimately start a company and you begin to surround yourself with other people like that, it's even more powerful. An entrepreneur can be defined in lots of ways, and I think there's lots of people that try to give a good stab at this. My friends at Flagship Ventures in Boston did a great job of saying these are the key ingredients of an entrepreneur. And for me, I think I found 4 of them that really jumped out at me. And it really comes down to integrity, leadership, and impatience with a real bias towards action. Not somebody that's going to sit and wait for things to happen. They go out there, they do it, they build their network, and they make things happen. And finally, an ability to attract great talent. The ability to surround yourself with other people that are smarter than you and as passionate as you are is absolutely key to success. You have to find people that can help you execute your vision and dream. You cannot do it all yourself. It's the value of the network. As I started my discussion saying, if you want to go fast, go along. If you want to go very far, go together. And I encourage you all to do that. The action items, I think this is my professor side coming in. The action items for today's class is to really think about getting involved with the Enterprise Forum. A very valuable network. I guarantee it'll have an impact on your career regardless of what level you are, where you are in your career, how early or how late. Connect with the local leadership of this chapter, including Linus. Help expand the Singapore entrepreneurial ecosystem. I think that is absolutely critical. As members of this community already, I feel you have an obligation to be part of that community. In addition to that, really think about moving your career to the next level and do your best to meet people. Shake hands. It's one of the hardest things to do and one of the easiest things to do. If you just say to yourself, I'm going to meet 5 people tonight that I didn't know before I walked into this room. Think about that expansion of the network. You met 5 people who probably met 5 people, who met 5 people. The power of the network is there, and you can tap into those individuals. And I must say, as somebody that's been a serial entrepreneur, I've done multiple companies. The value that I've gained from my network far exceeds anything I've ever gained, educationally or in any other way. So I encourage you to all do that, and I thank you very much for your time today. Look forward to your questions later.